So, you read the title, and the answer is pretty simple, right? Squidward lives for the chaos, he secretly loves SpongeBob, or he's looking out for him. Well, none of that is actually true. There's a much darker reason why Squidward doesn't move from his house. It's not that he can't move, it's that he doesn't want to. And once you realize why, you'll never see Squidward the same way again. So let's get into the Squidward moving theory. So it's not exactly a secret that Squidward doesn't like his neighbors very much. Whether it be SpongeBob or Patrick, he hates them so much that he'll do anything just to get away from them. In the past, he's tried to put up walls, fences, and all sorts of things. But there's just one thing he hasn't done yet: move away. If he hates them so much, shouldn't he want to leave? Well, as it turns out, he wants to. He's tried hundreds of times. It's just that each time he does, it doesn't work out and he ends up having to stay. Like one of the most famous examples of this comes from the season 1 episode Opposite Day. After SpongeBob and Patrick sneak into his house in the middle of the night, Squidward completely loses it. He's so mad that after kicking them out, he calls a realtor to sell his house so he can move away. The realtor likes his house and is pretty interested in the deal, but there's just one problem: his neighbors. The realtor mentions that she's seen a lot of deals fall through because of bad neighbors, and so she needs to see his house and his neighbors. Realizing that if the realtor met SpongeBob he'd never be able to leave, Squidward did something pretty smart. He made SpongeBob think it's opposite day. Because of that, SpongeBob started acting the complete opposite of his normal self. And for a while, this was working really well, until it stopped. By the end, everyone thought that they were Squidward and the deal ended up falling through. It got so bad that when Gary pretended to be Squidward, the realtor crashed out and ended the deal. So that's why Squidward can't move, right? He can't sell his house so he doesn't have the money to leave. Simple. Well, that would be true if Squidward had a money problem. Because as it turns out, while he may not have had the money to move this time, there are a lot of other episodes where he has more than enough. Like in the season 2 episode Squidville, he would use his own money to buy a new house. After SpongeBob and Patrick used their new reef blowers to destroy Squidward's house, he once again said that he was gonna move away. But this time, he was serious, and he ended up moving to Tentacle Acres. Now here's a question for you. If Squidward's whole problem is that he doesn't have the money to move, how did he move in this episode? His house is clearly destroyed, so he obviously didn't sell it. And even if Squidward was somehow smart enough to get insurance, they weren't gonna pay him enough to move to a gated community. The only way Squidward could have moved here is if he spent some of his own money. And he'd have to spend a lot because this place is not exactly cheap. I mean, in the episode, Squidward doesn't even go to work once. The community has so many facilities that Squidward had to have spent some serious cash just to get in there. But this wasn't the only time Squidward would spend a lot of money on a house. In the season 12 episode Pat Hart's Squid, Squidward's house, once again, gets destroyed. Instead of taking this as a sign to move away, he instead moved in with Patrick. Now the rest of the episode isn't that important. It's just about Patrick becoming a better Squidward than Squidward and how everyone likes him. But there's something at the end of the episode that's very important to Squidward moving. Just as the episode is coming to an end, Squidward gets his new house delivered to him by a helicopter. Either this guy has the greatest home insurance ever, or he has a lot of money to keep buying houses. The point is that he clearly has the money to move, he just doesn't. And he takes this to the next level when he tries to get SpongeBob to move instead of just moving himself. In the season 9 episode Sold, SpongeBob and Patrick think that their houses were bought by some realtor. Thinking that they're now homeless, the two decide to start living behind the Krusty Krab in the dumpster. When Squidward shows up in the morning and realizes what's going on, he adds flames to the fire and basically tells them that there's new families living in their houses and that they can't come back. But despite what Squidward said, the two decide to go back and visit their old houses. Now here, Squidward could have just given up and let them figure out that there's no one there. But his hate for them is so deep that when they showed up, he put on a bunch of disguises and pretended to be both of the neighbors. That's a lot of commitment just to keep them away from him. But this wasn't even the last time he would try something like this. In the season 10 episode on real estate, he once again tried to get SpongeBob to move away, this time making him think he's allergic to his pineapple. After Squidward convinced him to move, the two would start looking at places for him to move to. By the end of the day, they'd find this futuristic house that SpongeBob really liked and was excited to move into. But instead of taking the win and having SpongeBob out of his life forever, Squidward decided that this house was too good for him and that he'd take it off his hands. In return, Squidward was willing to let SpongeBob live in his house so he had a place to live. This was honestly the perfect opportunity for Squidward to get rid of SpongeBob, but because his ego got in the way, he ended up messing things up for himself and in the end, becoming SpongeBob's neighbor once again. On top of that, Squidward again spent a lot of money on this futuristic house. Even if he got SpongeBob to buy his house and use that money, just look at some of the things this house can do. It clearly costs far more than Squidward's place. So Squidward has the money to move and he hates his neighbors, yet he doesn't leave his house. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, there's something we've missed in each episode we've looked at that might help us understand what's going on. Let's go back to where it started in the episode Squidville. At the end of the episode, Squidward got tired of the gated community and left it to go back home. Remember, his old house was destroyed at the start of the episode. It would literally be a bigger hassle to wait for a new house than to just go somewhere else. And I know what you're thinking. In the episode, we saw that Squidward sorta likes the chaos SpongeBob and Patrick bring to his life. Like when he got bored of the repetitive lifestyle, he picked up a reef blower and started playing with it, just like SpongeBob and Patrick. So because he craves the chaos, he has to move back to his old house, no matter how long it took. And that makes sense. Until you remember that Squidward can get that chaos from literally anywhere else. Clearly, there's something special about where he lives. It's gotta be the reason he keeps coming back. On top of that, in the episode Pat Hard Squid, he once again made a similar decision. At the end of the episode, he chose to keep his house where it is instead of going literally anywhere else. He keeps making the choice to live next to SpongeBob and Patrick despite clearly hating them. Why? I mean, he even put up a fence in one episode to get away from them, but he still didn't move. Every time he does, he comes back, and it's completely his choice. Well, there's something going on with Squidward that keeps him next to SpongeBob and Patrick. And once you realize what it is, you'll see Squidward in a much different light. So there's a few conspiracies that have floated around on the internet on why Squidward doesn't move. Like for example, there's quite a few people who believe that Squidward secretly loves SpongeBob. They believe that he pretends to hate him, but deep down, somewhere, he likes him. And while that's a whole separate video in itself, I think we can agree that some part of Squidward truly does hate SpongeBob. I mean, if he didn't, he probably wouldn't have read his diary and exposed it to everyone. Apart from that popular theory, there's another one on SpongeBob's parents and how they pay Squidward. Basically, the idea is that SpongeBob's parents don't trust their son, and so they pay Squidward to look after him. That's why Squidward chooses to live right next to him. He gets free money, and all he has to do is put up with SpongeBob. That theory makes a lot of sense, until you look into it for about 2 seconds. First, even if Squidward hasn't successfully moved away, he's tried to. A lot of times. Why would he be so eager to leave if he's getting paid to stay where he does? And the second thing is his job. Squidward has made it pretty clear that he hates his job. If he's supposedly getting paid by SpongeBob's parents, why would he not just quit? The only reason Squidward doesn't leave his job right now is because he needs the money. On top of that, SpongeBob's parents don't even have that much money. I already talked about that in another video. Now most of these random theories seem kinda baseless. There's no real evidence behind them, but there is just one that people have come up with that's actually kinda close. Going back to the Squidward needs chaos theory, there's something in the episode that a lot of people missed. When Squidward started to hate his life there, it's assumed it's because he wants chaos. That's why he picked up the reef blower. But there's another part to Squidward's attitude change that's not often discussed, his individualism. The entire community of Tentacle Acres is just squids. And I'm not sure if it's a stereotype, but they're all rude and stuck up, just like Squidward. At the start, he enjoyed their company because they were just like him. I mean, when he showed up, a guy roasted him and he loved it because he was acting just the way he would. But as the days went on, Squidward's life not only got repetitive, but he would also start to blend in a bit more. He became just another squid in the city. Now, he was no longer someone special. And that became even more real when he'd have to do the same things over and over again, just like everyone else. He was so fed up with it towards the end that he wanted to act out, and so he did, by doing what SpongeBob and Patrick did. For some weird reason, Squidward feels the need to be special. While everyone in the town lived a peaceful and simple life, Squidward didn't want to. And there's a very specific reason he thinks this way: his ego. So it's not exactly groundbreaking news to find out that Squidward has a big ego. I mean, despite working a minimum wage job and living a terrible life, he still thinks quite highly of himself. He believes he's better than everyone else in Bikini Bottom because he said that like 500 different times. Like for example, in the episode Artist Unknown, Squidward repeatedly tries to make SpongeBob an artist like himself, despite SpongeBob being better than him. Art's one of the few things he likes, and to see someone be so effortlessly better than him pissed him off. Apart from that, there's episodes like House Fancy, Skill Crane, and even Pat Heart Squid, where Squidward's just a cocky idiot. He believes he's better than everyone else because he's supposedly smarter and more cultured. But to really understand how big Squidward's head is, we have to look at the season 15 episode, Upward. In the episode, this rich lady heard Squidward playing music, and because she couldn't hear, she liked it. Thinking he's gonna be the next big thing, she decided to make him her personal musician and basically adopted him. After seeing her house, Squidward realized how rich and famous he was gonna be, and after realizing that, he started to show more of his colors. Literally after getting signed, he went back to the Krusty Krab to quit his job, but instead of doing it like a normal person, he had to show off. Not only did he flex his newfound wealth, but he also gave SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs tickets for his upcoming concert. Later in the day, when SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs went to wish him luck and congratulate him, Squidward acted as if he was too good for them. He told them that he was the greatest musician to ever live and was pretty cocky while doing it. He quite literally switched up on his day ones. Now while by the end Squidward did end up losing all his fame and fortune, this episode really showed just how big Squidward's head could get if he ever got big. His ego's already bad enough when he's broke and living a terrible life, but it's a whole lot worse when he's rich and successful. The point is that Squidward has a massive ego and he thinks he's the best thing to ever happen to art and music. But what does Squidward's ego have to do with him not moving? Clearly, Squidward's not the most down-to-earth person. But how does that in any way relate to him staying at his house? Well, as it turns out, his ego might be secretly making him live next to SpongeBob and Patrick without him even realizing it. So remember earlier how Squidward didn't feel special in Tentacle Acres? Well, there's a very specific place in Bikini Bottom where Squidward gets that special feeling he craves, right next to SpongeBob and Patrick. For whatever reason, SpongeBob and Patrick really like Squidward despite him not really liking them. And while most of the time Squidward doesn't like their company, their affection does something interesting to him. It feeds his ego. Squidward already believes he's the smartest and most cultured person in Bikini Bottom. And while everyone else in the city doesn't believe that, SpongeBob and Patrick sorta do. They really think highly of Squidward and constantly tell him all these nice things. While they do it in an annoying way, Squidward still hears their praises of him and feels like a lot better of a person than he actually is. Because they do that, Squidward's already inflated ego becomes even bigger. All his beliefs about who he is and how good he is come to life and begin to hold real merit. But that's not all Squidward's neighbors do for him. Apart from further making him think he's better than everyone else, they also, by complete accident, make him think he's smarter. Because the two, for a lack of a better term, are idiots, Squidward in comparison looks a lot smarter. He already thinks of himself as some genius, but because the two idiots are constantly around him, they only feed into his belief that he's the smartest one around. And that's why he keeps coming back to his old house. Anywhere else he goes, he doesn't get that treatment. The people around him are much smarter and they don't like him as much. But next to SpongeBob and Patrick, he's not only the smartest one, but also the most cultured. But if that's the case, if that's why Squidward chooses to come back each time, then why does he feel the need to leave in the first place? Because remember, while he hasn't moved away, Squidward still wants to leave. Well, it's a lot simpler than you'd think. Sure, the two like him and think he's really good, but they're still annoying. That's why there's times in episodes like Opposite Day where Squidward completely loses it and decides he wants to leave. It's just that each time he does leave, he ends up coming back craving that ego boost and the nice feeling he gets from it. That's why most of the times when he moves, he ends up coming back pretty soon. But his ego boost addiction goes a lot deeper than you'd think, because there's a separate part of Squidward's beliefs that we haven't looked at yet. While Squidward does really think highly of himself, he's been doing something for a while that would make him feel a lot better. He's slowly trying to change SpongeBob and Patrick to be more like him. Like, let's go back to the episode Pat Heart Squid. The entire plot of the episode is about Squidward living in Patrick's house. But after living with Patrick for one night, Squidward decides he's gonna change him to be more like himself. Within a few days, Patrick basically becomes a second Squidward. But there's just one difference between them. He's more likable. While everyone hates Squidward because of who he is, they like Patrick and think he's better than Squidward. He's more likable, more talented, and in general, just a better version of him. Squidward is so mad to see himself be replaced that he tries to act like Patrick to get back at him. This episode shows Squidward changing Patrick. He tries to make him more like himself so he could basically have a disciple. Even when Patrick changed, Squidward was the one leading him and basically being his mentor. And this wasn't even the only time he tried to do something like this with Patrick. In the season 8 episode Squidward's School for Grown-Ups, Squidward once again became Patrick's mentor. After Patrick woke up with a beard, he wanted to be more mature and grown up. And once Squidward realized what Patrick wanted, he decided to mentor him and basically take him under his wing. He says that he wants to do this hoping that this will make the neighborhood more mature and less chaotic. But that's only part of the truth. Because as the episode goes on, Squidward's real intentions start to show up. Each place he goes with Patrick, SpongeBob shows up and Squidward shuts him down. And for a change, Patrick joins him in making fun of SpongeBob because he's trying to be more mature, just like Squidward. All this is for Squidward is an ego boost. Patrick is basically his yes man, his disciple. Squidward can make Patrick however he wants him to be. And that's the second part of Squidward's whole thing. Apart from getting this good feeling from SpongeBob and Patrick liking him, he also tries to change them to be more like him. So far, he's tried to change Patrick twice and it almost worked. And on top of that, he also wants SpongeBob to be different, which he talked about in the episode The Abrasive Side. By changing the both of them to be more like him, they will not only look up to him, but basically be his yes men. They'll do whatever he wants and let him think that he's far better than he actually is. That's part of the reason he keeps coming back. He believes that he can change SpongeBob and Patrick to be more like him, and soon he'll have his perfect neighborhood. Sometimes he crashes out and leaves because he gets fed up with their stupidity, but in the end he comes back to do the same thing, to change them to be more like him so he can fulfill his little ego.